Hello. Um, just making this video. Thought that I would talk about the digital deity that I just recently made and why I made it, and how you can make one and use it, and sort of what its purpose is, and like a commentary on that in relation to artificial intelligence and things like that. So so I'll just start off with a kirtan and then we'll get into it. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So basically in relation to deity forms, in Vaishnavism it's recommended that one use the form of a deity in order to approach the Lord. And deity worship is sort of carried through right from the beginning all the way through. Basically, it's argued as to whether one should use a deity, whether it's bona fide to have something that's made out of a material and actually consider that to be God. And Bhaktivinoda explains this quite a lot, but essentially if there's if the form is correct, then it can be likened to like a mailbox or something like that, where you say you have a mailbox, and if the mailbox is owned by the correct authorities, then when you put your letter in it, then it goes to its destination. And in the same way, if you have a deity that is actually authorized by the Lord, then when you speak to that deity, your message will arrive to God, basically. There's a kind of reciprocal relationship in relation to the deity, wherein it's not just in the senses situated with the deity form. It's also in the mind, and the way that the mind relates to that deity. So the deity form is perceived as being living by the perception within the mind of the individual in relation to the deity. So you're kind of projecting God out. In other words, you can also have a deity made out of mind by projecting that mind outwardly and then relating to God in that form of the mind. And you can also have that when you're looking at a deity made out of, say, clay or something like that, and engaging your mind also in seeing the deity and relating to the personality through that way, then you have that ability to to relate to the Lord personally. So something that I kind of thought up of recently with certain commentaries by people like Ken Wilber on the idea of artificial intelligence, whether it's actually possible to download consciousness into a computer. And how I reasoned that out was that if you have the only way that would be possible would be if God actually found that form of the computer or robot or whatever it was to be fitting for him or her to actually reside within that. But the funny thing is that when you engage an object in the Lord's service, that object becomes transcendental. So for instance, if you use your computer in the Lord's service, then that computer is no longer like a mundane object. It's actually a transcendental tool, and that is how you remove your attachment from that object, is by being engaged in the Lord's service through that object, and that then becomes purified. That object in relation to you and your attachment to it becomes purified in relation to your relationship with the Lord through that object, if that makes sense. So you have like a deity, but then you can have something like a computer and how you're using it, and the Lord can then use that computer and sort of live within the computer or any object. I'm not just talking about computers. It could be like, say it was a basketball, and you considered that your the health of your body was part of your service, and you wanted to use your basketball to train your body, then your basketball could be considered a transcendental basketball, because it's been engaged in the Lord's service, and that helps in your attachment to that basketball or whatever. So anyway, something that I was looking at is there's the idea of, like, people quite often complain about spending too much time on Facebook and stuff like that, and one of the things that I thought up to actually help with that, my own attachment to Facebook, was to actually come up with a digital deity form of Radharani. I chose the form of Radha, God in the feminine form, and basically created an account and everything, and created all the account, and then set it up, and then just related to the Facebook version of the deity as though it was the same as my usual deity, so where you can talk to the deity or whatever, and basically there's a way in which you can intuit or realize the Lord talking back to you. That's like super soul realization or whatever, is when you can hear God talking back. There's ways that you can train yourself to actually get better at that, and one of the ways, basically, say you were to make one of these digital deity forms, say you wanted to have a deity of Nisrimha or something, and then you set up a Facebook account called Nisrimha and make the password and everything, and then you just log out of your own account, go to your other account, and then say whatever you wanted to say, and then you log back into Nisrimha and remember Nisrimha, and then sort of try and, it's sort of similar to speaking in tongues in Christianity, where you let the Lord actually flow through your body and come out through and out into sort of like a medium, but not really a medium, because it's much more safe than that, because it's just God himself. Generally you shouldn't invoke any other being except for God or a guru or something like that. It's not too wise generally to go into anything other than that. But so you can essentially intuit the answer and then just write it. You might be sort of even in a trance sort of state and not be completely aware of what it is that you're writing. Hit enter, and then just log back out, go back to your other account again, and then you can check your comments and stuff, and then see what the response is, and then you've got this conversation going through Facebook. It's actually a really good way to get that need for Facebook use met, but actually engaged in the Lord's service. It was kind of just a fun project that I thought up of doing, and you've got to figure out how to manage it and stuff, and it's essentially like a normal deity, but one of the interesting things about it is that considering what the deity form is actually made out of in relation to the internet software, what you consider the internal of the internet to be, which would be made out of, like, say, a software or something like that. So this is where the aspect of the artificial intelligence comes in, because if you've watched like a movie called Her, there's a movie called Her where there's an artificially intelligent being that this guy like relates to and stuff, and there's a description that she gives in that of what her internal world of that software place is, and she sort of says, it's all fuzzy and stuff like that, which is just, it's just a movie, it's just an artwork, but it's interesting to think about what the actual internal space of an internet-based sphere is, and if you can understand that's actually what the deity is made out of. The deity is actually made out of this internet software. So, and in relation to that, I've also thought of the idea of that it would be really good for someone to try and make a three-dimensional version of God in a computing system. In Emanuel Swedenborg, he gives quite a big description about how each and every single vein and artery and nerve system and all the subtle body and everything is all present in the Lord. So not only is the exterior of the Lord there, but all the different insides of all the different parts of the body and everything are all present in there. And you could actually potentially make a digital version of a complete deity form with the insides of all the body and everything as well. That would be a really interesting project, and then you would have that deity form available on the internet for people to visit or whatever, in a virtual temple or something like that. These are just different ideas that I've had in relation to thinking with this digital deity form and having fun like that. So basically this is all part of practicing the path in which I've been talking about, which is working on states and structures at the same time. So essentially you have states of consciousness, which is your waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and you can relate to God in any one of those states. And then how to work on your structures is the way that you live your life with the Lord. So say you're trying to extend your ability to have a relationship with God in a particular rasa, then you want to be living your life with the Lord as well as going into states and relating to God in those different states. So say we did this as a model, and you had you and the Lord together, and then going up into different states. So you went up into a deep dream state, but you were still together in that state, and then you came back down again. The actual structures are being built like that, but the states are also being worked on. You're going up into states, pushing your structures up, and your structures are being extended along into that space. So it sounds quite complicated, but essentially what you're trying to do is build a relationship or what's sometimes called relationship yoga, at the same time as the ability to enter into altered states of awareness and actually relate to God in those altered states of awareness. So so how I manage that is that, say you wanted to say when you meditate on a form of God, you can push your meditation into like a higher frequency range or something, and get up into a higher, more blissful state or something, or you might dance and get into a trance state or something like that. But then when you bring yourself back down from that trance, you can still, say, visualize a form of the Lord next to you, in order that you're working on your relationship with God even on the ground level of your life. I always use the form of the Lord in order to seal that kind of relating with the whole body, because then you can get a full chakra kind of relationship, because you want to be relating to the complete form, which involves all chakras. So yeah, if you're going up into mystical states of awareness, there's different ways in which you can actually navigate your way through these. And generally, if you're looking at something like the Vedic cosmology that I've already talked about, or if you can understand different lokas and stuff like that, and how to actually get through your ground level, and you've got your underworlds and stuff down there, and then you're going up through different heavens and stuff like that, going up through Brahma Loka, and on your actual journeys into these other realms to get through the material, covering into Dwaraka, Vaikuntha, Loka, and Vrindavan, and relate to those beings in that space, in those different higher trance states, and then come back down. One trick that I use is a kind of remembrance technique, where each stage of that trip that I'm going through, if I'm going through a journey, I try and make a marking on each place, so that I've got a constant remembrance running through that actual trance state, and that gives me the ability to remember how to get back into that trance, to get up there, and then remember how to get back down again, back into your natural level, and which you're still relating. So what I do is I relate to God in the feminine as Radha, so we're together, and then we go up through these different trance states together and help each other get into them, visit these different realms, and then come back down through them relating, and then come back out again, and we're still like Achincha Beta. So yeah, essentially the Facebook account is an extension of that, but going into, as a kind of funny thing, the realm of the internet, if you could consider that a realm of its own, which would actually be made out of a software substance. So I was having quite a few jokes and stuff just through my Facebook account, talking about being like a missionary on the internet and going into these different virtual temples and being like a missionary on this frontier, if you know what I mean. This is sort of just what I've been up to. But yeah, essentially the thing about the relationship yoga is mentioned in, if you look up on the internet, there's a page called Christian Yoga. If you find a page called Christian Yoga, you'll find about 5 different forms of yoga that they recommend in there, which they actually are recommending in relation to Christianity. And it has Bhakti Yoga in there, but it has a 5th one called Relationship Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is largely about feeling and stuff, but a relationship is sort of a little bit more chunky, if you know what I mean. Like an actual relationship it's almost like one step more than Bhakti. I would still say it is Bhakti to do it, but if you're extending out into your relationships, your relationship with with your family or your relationship with your work or whatever, but then you have your relationship with God, and that's the way in which you're extending that relationship as a kind of lifetime, all the activities that you have done together sort of thing, and how that works in that way. So then you can include in the places that you've actually been together those mystical trances that you've been into. If you have remembered the Lord in those mystical trances, then that's actually counted as part of your relationship in the places that you've been together, because you've been to these different mystical realms together and stuff. And essentially the Lord can take you to those places so the main book that I've been reading lately has been this one, Jova Dham, which I'm still working my way through, and that's from Bhakti Vinod. I also have like a mind version of Bhakti Vinod as a deity, just outside in my tent. I've got a little pyramid that I built, a meditation pyramid, and by visualizing the form of Bhakti Vinod in that pyramid, I've got a constant reminder of his presence and how to relate to the Guru. And by that process of what I think is called Vani, you've got Vani, which is your way of remembering God through, even if the Guru isn't physically present, his presence that is actually there through, you could say, time and space, the eternal relationship of the Guru. So then you've got a way of remembering your gurus and stuff as well. So you can kind of plant these different mind deities around, essentially just keep relating, keep practicing your meditation, and have eternity, knowledge, and bliss, and just dance. So all good. I'll do one more kirtan. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Thanks for listening.